Cryptocurrency and blockchain technology now touches the lives of many, but with incredible potential comes undeniable risks. It's Andrew Philp back on Monday Minutes, and today we're excited to bring you episode 15, the final episode of the year. We're exploring the intricacies of cryptocurrency and blockchain, balancing security and innovation. Diving into this topic are our returning duo, David Chow, and our distinguished guest, Tim Gilday, Senior Director of Emerging Technology at GDIT. Today we're journeying through the complexities, from the need for rigorous research and education to the challenges of regulation and the impact on cybersecurity. Tim will also touch on topics like central bank digital currencies and the power of blockchain. Let's dive right in. Over to you, David.
Thank you, Andrew. So today I have Tim Gilday coming back for the third part of this conversation of videos. Today we're going to talk about cryptocurrency. So Tim, I know that you're an avid cryptocurrency investor. You're also a huge believer in blockchain. And even when we're working together a few years ago, we talked about potentially using blockchain to create this US property address and then be able to, rather than paying mortgage insurance, we're actually using that to be able to show people that the title is actually clean. Can you share a little bit about your experience in cryptocurrency and blockchain?
Yeah, actually, so I have to cover so many different technologies, and they're all exciting. I always have this curious need to learn about them. But this one also had that underpinning motivation because there's money associated with it, and that's fun, right, to some extent, but you don't want to just be gambling, so you have to research, you have to educate yourself a lot, and it's an area rife with scams, right? It's not regulated very well yet, but we are getting there. There have been a lot of different issues recently that have brought that to the forefront, and so I think the U.S. government has been working to try to address that. All technologies tend to follow that hype cycle, and blockchain, I think, in the federal government space had the peak hype around 2017, 2018, but that doesn't mean that just because it's not talked about as broadly as the silver bullet cure for everything, that it's not also very valuable. And the example you brought up is perfect. Many countries are trying to figure out how can we use this for tracking identification, right? Where they don't have a very strong system of credentials management, birth certificates. So they have to use attestation that somebody, is who they say they are. Also deeds and land management in countries where the government might be more corrupt, or cartels may be able to take land without really proving that they paid for it or bought it. So leveraging the blockchain and having that decentralized in the cloud, as it were, that allows us to have that third-party proof without having a middleman in it. And the middleman can always be corrupted, or can often be corrupted. And that's why I'm such a big believer in the concept of blockchain, because in my lens that I look through for emerging technology, can we do things better? Can we do it faster? Can we do it cheaper? And to some extent, can it be made more convenient? These are all kind of forces that increase adoption. Blockchain can create all of these if it's implemented correctly. The reason that it's been slow is because it is very complicated technology, and you have to think not only about the technology itself, but also the ecosystem around it. How are you incentivizing good behavior? How are you creating consensus that something should be imprinted onto the blockchain? Because once it's on there, it's potentially on there forever. That's the whole point, the value of the blockchain. You can't go back and edit it. You can't change the past. You can't change history. So that's another reason I love it. So with all these great things, you do have a lot of excitement, and that does give room for fraudsters to come in and say, hey, we've solved this problem of speed, or we've solved this problem of accessibility or use. And you get a lot of excitement around that, a lot of money funneled into it, and then what we call a rug pull, where people disappear with that money. And unfortunately, that tarnishes the concept of blockchain technology. As far as the concept goes, it's a wonderful technology. It will continue to mature. We just need, from an engineering perspective, to solve several problems in scalability, speed, and security.
So you talked about, for cryptocurrency, you actually talked about how U.S. government is trying to regulate the cryptocurrency, but currently it's not. So do you see that the unregulated cryptocurrency created an issue for the industry without some sort of a traceability for where the funding goes? Hence, the rampant ransomware, hence the rampant cyber attacks. Do you see any correlation between that?
Yes, and you bring up a good nuanced point. There are a full spectrum of views in the US, the world, and in our government space. Some look at cryptocurrency as a threat to the US government because it's potentially a threat or competitor to US dollar as a global world reserve currency. I see a world where these and many other currencies should be able to cohabitate in peace and even accelerate and support each other. For example, the US government itself is actually able to use a stable coin on blockchain called USDC, Circle, and they were able to send money to another country instantaneously, or value to another country instantaneously, when wire transfers would have taken much longer. So there is value and use to this technology. There's a competing idea of CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. China has that, and the challenge with these, the US is also working on our own. The challenge is it requires a lot of citizen trust of the government. Will they keep our data private and well protected? Because a CBDC is not like blockchain. It's not decentralized and distributed. You have a single owner who can have access to the database behind the scenes. So what if they're corrupt? So not to hammer on China, but you can see that historically the Chinese government has been potentially misusing its ability to have central data or to have control of its citizens through these types of technologies like artificial intelligence. So there's this fear in the US and other countries that governments might misuse a CBDC. That's why, from a cryptocurrency perspective, it is exciting to have that idea that you cannot necessarily have a single middleman or authority go in and just shut you down or take your funding away. From a theoretical perspective, how is this going to go into the future? Very hard to tell. It's kind of like game theory, you have butterfly effect. The US dollar right now is still the de facto world reserve currency, but due to heavy money printing and inflation, other countries that settle their transactions in US dollar, they've been feeling the pain actually because they're smaller. It's almost like a canary in the mine shaft situation where they feel the pain first, and the US has actually been able to spread its pain across these other countries. So in the US, we don't feel the immediate impacts of that overprinting. Now, as we're trying to withdraw liquidity back from the system by raising interest rates, that is having the adverse effect, making the US dollar very strong against other currencies, fiat currencies in the world. So there's all this back and forth. And I think it's kind of a wake-up call to these countries, and that's why some of them, like El Salvador, small countries, they are experimenting with Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies as a potential alternative way of settling transactions. And again, like I said earlier, we haven't solved all the speed and transaction and security issues, so that's a risky proposition, but it is something that as we head into the future, an ideal world, why don't we use diplomacy to settle challenges? Why would we use sanctions unilaterally to try and enforce our views on the rest of the world? I'd love to see everybody coming to the table and negotiating as opposed to just using force.
And you brought up a lot of interesting point. I think it's monetary policy by different countries, and as well as geopolitical issues. But a combination of all of that is actually impacting the world of cybersecurity. We have, so within the U.S., President Biden just pushed out a national cybersecurity plan, right? And it's also talking about collaborating with other countries to make sure that we're pushing forward on uniform front in terms of defending the valuable assets. But at the same time, that one of the root causes is actually this untraceable cryptocurrency. So maybe it has to go hand in hand that there needs to be some sort of policy looking at what's causing the issues, and then also finding ways to address those issues as well. For example, regulating the cryptocurrency. That would deter some of the cyber attacks. That would deter quite a bit of ransomware. That, at least that's my personal opinion.
No, I agree. So it's very hard to regulate something that's decentralized and global, but what you can regulate is protecting innovators, right? We don't want to suppress innovation and push it offshore, because then in essence, that makes it actually harder for us to track criminal activity The blockchain, we want criminals to use cryptocurrency because ultimately you can trace that. Its history, like I said, is immutable. It can't be changed. So when transactions are occurring, you can eventually do forensics to backtrack where it came. And there are many great tools for analytics on the blockchain that are ever improving. Now, we talked about privacy coins like Monero and others. There are ways to track even this. And then if you put money onto an exchange and you try to hide it by going through the exchange and selling it and changing it into different coins, there are also ways to track that as well. So the ability to track criminals who are using cryptocurrency is greatly enhanced and highly preferable to them using cash, right? Cash is very hard to track. If you're just using a dollar, how are we going to figure out where that went? But in the bigger ecosystem, just to explain the mechanism, let's say we were a nice, well-balanced regulatory system with policies that both protected our privacy and protected people from the risk of scams, but at the same time allowed for innovation and developers were encouraged to develop. You would have all that occurring onshore in the US as we hoped originally, and then you would have US citizens who felt more encouraged and safe, like the risk was lower, to actually invest in these onshore mechanisms, whether it's a centralized exchange or a decentralized exchange that was created and developed in the US. What that means is all of these things that would be developed in the US have to follow AML and KYC, anti-money laundering, and know your customer laws and regulations. And as we develop those, that means you have to identify yourself at that gateway when you transition from US dollar or any other currency that is fiat, paper-based currency, into some kind of currency on the blockchain, a cryptocurrency. You identify yourself at that gateway, that point. So if we actually regulate it in a nice way, we would probably get more compliance with that AML KYC process. And then throughout the life cycle, while that value was on the blockchain, as it came back through into another gate, transitioning into a country fiat currency like US dollar or Chinese renminbi, you would then have the entirety of the life cycle traceable on the blockchain. So we want to encourage innovation safely here because it makes criminal activity much more traceable.
Very awesome. Thank you again, Tim. Thanks for doing 3 Monday Minutes with us. Really appreciate it. And this is, you share a lot of information and a lot of food for thought that we need to really start looking at some of the innovation in technology and how we can actually, stay abreast and how we can actually secure it. So really appreciate it. Thank you, Tim.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
Back to you, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Tim and David. Tim's wealth of knowledge and experience has highlighted that whilst cryptocurrency presents an enticing opportunity, the risks are real, from scams to security challenges. What's clear is the continuous need to stay informed, foster responsible development, and embracing a balanced regulatory framework are our best bets for navigating the cryptocurrency landscape successfully. Well, that's a wrap for this year's episodes. We hope you've enjoyed our Season 2 on Monday Minutes as much as I've enjoyed the privilege of bringing it to you. If you've missed any of our past episodes, there are a wealth of bite-sized knowledge and insights waiting for you. From everyone at Trend Micro, we wish you a happy holiday and have a great new year. See you next time.